Hey, everybody.
Happy
Friday. It's Friday. Wow, listen, it seems like it's been a long time since we've been together, right?
It has been. We missed a week.
Oh, because we didn't do last week.
We didn't do last week. And, yep. And I was actually just thinking about this today. Like, all of us have not been in the same setting in a long time. Like, physically in proximity.
Right.
We've not been together. So how y'all be? How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Right.
I'm missing you guys. It seems like I haven't seen anybody's face in so long.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. So Joya, you're back and you're settled. We know you were saving lives in Connecticut.
I'm back and I'm packing right now. My living room is full of boxes.
Oh goodness.
You're packing boxes. You're leaving again. Okay.
You're leaving again, Joya?
I'm leaving my house.
That's not I know. Well, we're so excited. We're just kind of catching up because we haven't gotten a chance to talk to each other actually in a while. We've been doing a whole bunch of different stuff, but welcome to Friday, this edition of All Things New. I've got my ladies here at the table. I've got the beautiful Dana, the beautiful Teresa, the beautiful Joya, and I am the beautiful Matisa. And
Yes, you are.
We're going to be talking today about something exciting. So I'm really excited.
Yay.
Before we jump in, let us pay tribute to our amazing producer and the person who gives us this wonderful platform, Elder Mark Moore Jr.
Yes.
We celebrate you. We celebrate you.
As you know, we are on YLC TV. You can find us on YouTube. And every Friday, we just come together to bring a fresh perspective as it relates to current events. And today, we're going to be talking about something really good. We're talking about guns, girls, guns, and God. Now, we're about to get into a real good conversation, so you all are going to want to listen in. I need you to do what Dana just did. I need you to share. So, ladies, let's all share.
I'm going to share right now.
I'm sharing as well.
Let's share. Somebody was already on my page like, where are y'all? We're coming. We didn't get a chance to be on last week, but we're excited to be on today.
I know I missed you guys last week.
I know, and I've been thinking about this topic, and I'll tell you why. I've got some real gun enthusiasts in my family. I'm going to ask you a question in just a second, but everybody's like, girl, you need to get a gun. So that's why I'm really, especially being in Atlanta. So that's why I'm really excited about this conversation because I want to know what are we thinking? Like, what do we need to do? So do y'all hear some feedback?
I
was about to ask if it was choppy for everybody because you seem to be choppy for me.
I'm choppy for you?
It's like a feedback.
Okay.
I'm going to put in my headset. Maybe it's me.
Okay. And it might be me, but I don't know where my headset is. So let me ask the question, and then I'll try to figure it out. So this is my question for anybody, and if we could all answer. What was your family's relationship like with guns growing up? That's what I want to start with.
Great question.
My mom got 7 of them.
She has 7 guns?
I'm really surprised. So I guess she inherited my grandfather's collection of guns, which he had maybe 4 or 5. And then I know my dad had a gun. They still have guns now. She's got a little pearl handled pistol or something. So my parents have guns.
No one in my family had guns.
My dad was in the military, so he had a gun or whatever. He still has a gun, and he just bought my mom a gun last year. So
is that her first gun?
Huh?
Was that her first gun?
That was her first gun, but not his. Yeah, like he's had guns all my life. Like,
Jory, you say your dad carries his?
Yeah, my dad travels with his.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everywhere he goes, everywhere. Like when he has the whatever type of license that he's able to do it state to state. So he travels everywhere.
But like every day as well?
He actually takes it, yeah. Don't run up on him, sir.
The CCW.
He might be tiny, but he's packing.
Teresa, did you answer? What was your family's relationship?
Yeah, my family. No, we never had guns, and so I dated an officer before, so I used to go to a firing range just to practice and things like that. But I've always been very interested in having one and need one in my profession. I haven't. And now that I'm older, my brothers have guns, but they all have their own businesses. So as they became entrepreneurs and, moved money and carried large sums of money on them, they started obtaining their CCWs for carrying a concealed weapon. So I think 3 of my 4 brothers probably carry guns now.
Well, I'm going to try to put these in just a second. So my situation is a little bit different. My dad's family, they all have lots of guns. I won't tell you their names because you can run them all now. But they hunt. So I grew up in a hunting family, and my grandfather, who is passed on now, he would have, all kinds of shotguns. He had hunting dogs. They hunted all the time.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad grew up in Kentucky, and they would go out, on Saturdays and go hunt rabbit and deer and all that kind of stuff. And my dad, loves guns and has a lot of guns. Now, my mom, though, she had a very different perspective. Her perspective came largely from her church background. She was saved when I was really young. And she was basically taught, from their perspective, that saints shouldn't carry guns. So on one hand, my dad had a bunch of guns, and then on the other hand, she was taught not to have guns. So I think this is a really interesting conversation because I think there's still those two ideas, right? That there are a lot of church folk who don't think you should have guns at all.
Right.
And some think you should. So let me just open that up. What would you say to that question? Should Christians own guns?
I think we should.
I don't think it's a problem either.
What am I going to say? Peace be still. Peace be still.
Peace be still. My peace.
Got to Smith and Wesson.
So talk about why, though. Like, what makes you say that?
I think the reason probably Christians feel like you probably shouldn't have a gun is because it seems like it's not putting faith in God to be your protector. But I think it's just exercising wisdom. I don't think that it's necessarily that you don't trust God to protect you or, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what my thoughts are. People that are against guns or Christians that are against guns, it's because they feel as if, the Lord is the person that's supposed to be that protector. And you don't, because it's one of those, like, we're leaning on our own understanding, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I don't think it's wrong to have a gun. I think you just have to have willpower. You have to have discipline. So that's one of the reasons why I don't want a gun right now. Because I don't have discipline.
That's why I haven't gotten one yet. Because I know I have a hot temper, and I don't want to go to jail.
I would just be driving down if somebody pull off in front of me or something, I would pull my gun just to intimidate them. So it's like, it doesn't. I've done this before. And
that's against the law. So we would hope that you.
I know myself. So I ain't saying that anything that I did was right. I've done it before. I act as if I had a gun because someone pulled in front of me, and I was acting. So if I had the gun for real, it'd have been a horror situation. So I don't want to.
Listen, what you saying though is you ain't got no those. That's what you saying?
No, I have them.
You ain't got no self-control.
Like,
no self-control whatsoever.
Like, that's what we do.
Wow.
That's what we do.
Well, I want to say this. My husband, I forgot about this. So when Lawrence and I first got married, we went to my dad's house for a while, a little bit after our honeymoon, and my dad brought out his guns and showed him and was like,
I love it.
If you got any issues with my daughter, let me tell you how.
That's exactly what that was for. That was essentially a shotgun wedding, but afterwards.
Don't pray about my daughter. That's what he said. But there was somebody else that said something on an earlier comment. I can't see it now. Maybe it'll come back around. But we were talking about this idea of temperament. Okay, so Olivia says a lot of my female friends have now since all the protests and riots started taking gun classes and purchasing guns. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of said that to me. I don't know if you all's experience was the same. When people were seeing all this violence, they were like, you need to make sure that you've got a gun, right? But
Sure.
I want to step back really quickly, though, from this Christian perspective. Why have you heard that people might say, and y'all talked about this a little bit, that people might say from a Christian perspective that we should not have a gun? Is there scriptural precedence for that?
It's probably that whole "thou shalt not kill" thing. But what they don't understand is that "thou shalt not kill" doesn't mean, that whole "don't go around killing people."
Those 10 commandments that we have.
Wow.
I had to kill him,
But the thing about that is the Lord is really talking about murder specifically. And if we look at all of the laws that the Lord gives us and all of the 10 commandments and all those things, they're really for degrees of the heart. So if you have murder in your heart when you kill someone, or when you kill someone with murderous intentions, that's what he's talking about. So I think it more bears with the content. If you're using it to defend yourself, obviously that's not the same as murder. And even in our legal system, we distinguish between degrees of murder, like what people's intents were, and things like that. So that's probably one of the reasons that people don't like the idea of Christians carrying guns, because it's that, it doesn't stand in line with, "thou shalt not kill."
Yeah, I want to go back to Mark's point. He said it's not against the law to because this is an open carry state. But if you're in your car and you're in traffic and you're brandishing a gun in the window, that is not lawful.
That is not lawful.
Right. And so, but I think that you can have, and then the license that you get for that, you have to have a license to carry a concealed weapon. And again, it has to be concealed. And I'll have to go back and review. I didn't know Georgia was an open carry state, because I've worked for companies in Georgia that terminated people for having open firearms. So I'm not sure that's accurate, but we can look into that. But I do believe from a Christian perspective, people say you shouldn't have a gun because you should rely on God. Moreover, it puts you in a position where you can commit murder or kill someone. And every person I've ever talked to that carries a gun, you shouldn't carry it unless you're going to use it. And that's one big thing right now with police. They say, should you use a firearm as, instead of a deterrent, it's used as a deadly weapon. Like, I don't shoot to disarm, I shoot to kill.
Right.
And so it's always, I think it's wise or wisdom to say, if I have a gun and I'm taking it out, my intent is to use it, not to threaten you, to say, hey, back up, you're driving too close to me, or you're whatever. If you walk on my property and you're in the wrong by violating or trespassing, I should have the right to come out. But do I want to kill somebody? Absolutely not. Do I want to defend myself? I absolutely do. Being a realtor, there have been instances where agents have been contacted to come meet someone at a property that they have no idea, they've never met before. And we take certain precautionary measures, but you can get into a situation where you're with someone and they, take advantage of you. And so if you have a gun, you can protect yourself, but you can have a taser and protect yourself. You can have other things. I do believe in the right for us to bear arms. I think we can be.
But I don't, but this is what I would say though. Are you really trusting God? I mean, this is down to this idea of faith, right? Are you really trusting God if you feel like you have to take measures into your own hands? Where does faith come into play with that?
I think it's the same. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If I'm carrying a gun, am I not basically saying, God, you're not protecting me, let me take this into my own hands?
If it's just like you saying you have a cold or you have the flu and you're taking Tylenol because you have a headache, but you still trusting God to heal you from it. So I think it's the exact same thing. For me, it's the exact same thing. I have faith. I believe that God will continue to protect and cover me because he's done it for all these years. I haven't had a gun. And so I believe that he will continue to protect me. However, I think just with the time, what we're living in right now, the world that we're living in, like I just saw a video yesterday when this lady pulled a gun on this 15-year-old and her mom at like Chipotle. They pulled a gun. So it was one, but what I was thinking is, what would have happened if the other, the other party had the gun?
Had a gun.
And it would have been, those are the things that I think about, just even again with myself. Like, I'm like, sometimes it's probably not wise. Maybe it's just easier or better for you just to have your mouth as opposed to having a weapon. Because sometimes when you get into a situation like that, you do feel as if maybe let me take matter into my own hands, as opposed to let me just continue to trust in God. But I will say, to your point, I think it's the exact same thing. If you're taking medicine when you're sick, then why can't I carry my gun?
So, right. So, no, I think that's a good point. And we've got lots of different comments. So we want to make sure that we get those on the screen. And if you've got questions, post them. We want you to share. I really appreciate what you were just saying, Joya, about that particular instance. And I think what comes to mind, though, is outside of protecting my body and taking medicines and all those things that we know we should do, we are now impacting other people's lives. So it's not just about me taking medicine, but now, like you said, what if I'm so mad because of what somebody has done that I retaliate with my gun? What if I'm scared? It might not even be that my temperament is angry. I'm just scared of something that's happened, and now I'm taking somebody else's life. To me, it's much bigger than just, does the law say that I can carry it or not? From a moral perspective, there's a lot more at risk. So can anybody speak to that?
I think one of the reasons that I haven't gotten a gun is because, like Teresa was saying, if I'm going to pull it out, I have to be prepared to kill somebody. And I don't know, as angry as I get, as crazy as I get, I may want to beat somebody, but actually kill them, I'm not sure. And then, like you were saying, Matissa, but in that state of fear, anything can happen. And so I've always been cautious. One, I don't want my weapon to be turned against me, because I'm not really comfortable in it if I'm still scary or whatever. And then two, like, I don't want to accidentally shoot someone, because I thought they were coming for me and they weren't. Like, I don't want to be responsible for that. So I think there's that level of responsibility that has to go with it. So that, and then knowing, your temperament, your expertise, and all of those things have to be a factor for whether or not you choose to carry one.
But think about how many situations have you been in like that, though, Dana? Like, have you? Okay, so because like, those things about mine are minute. Like, I've never been in a place or in a situation where I really needed a gun, I needed a weapon. I've never been in that situation. Like, I've just wanted it because I was mad, but not because I needed it. So, like, have you all been in a situation that you felt like, oh my God, if I had a gun, it would have never happened to me or something like that? Or is this too much? Am I asking a lot of questions?
I've not been in that situation. I don't recall ever having been in that situation, not to the degree of it wouldn't have happened had I had my gun, but there have been some situations. Like, I travel quite a bit, as y'all know. I drive a lot back and forth to Kentucky and different places. There have been times that I've been very scared, not a whole lot, but I've been, kind of nervous and scared, and thought to myself, what if this car, I don't know, pull me over? What if I had to go to a gas station and somebody pulled up behind me? I could definitely see myself having that gun closed just out of fear that what if they did something? And I think the unfortunate thing about that is I think what happens with the police often as well, because they have in their minds that Black people in particular are aggressors. Their what if becomes the trigger.
Right.
So I think we have to think about that.
Right.
Yeah. There was a comment that somebody said, you certainly have to be responsible, and this is from our attorney, Candace. She said, if you pull it out, you have to be prepared to use it. Like, that would only incite somebody further, or you don't know if they have one. You pull out a gun, they may have one to pull out. And then are you threatening somebody, or are you ready to use it? And so for me, I do believe that I would use mine in self-defense. And I feel like it would protect me. I've been in situations where it was questionable and I didn't know what someone's intent was, and wish I would have had a firearm at that time. But being in, I guess when you're exposed to certain situations, you know then whether or not it would be a good idea for you to have a weapon.
Sure.
But I would absolutely like to have one. Somebody made a comment. I think they sent it to our direct message on Facebook that they believe in the scripture that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So they kind of liken that to if you carry a gun, then you can very well die by the gun. But I think that's just something you have to be. I agree with that 1,000% when I think of gang members and people who carry guns and they use them on the street all the time and they're out here and being wild or whatever. It's like you live by the gun, you die. Like somebody gets shot and killed. Oh, okay. And they had a gun and that's the life they live. And so I 1,000% agree with that. But this is like Kendall Morris saying, this is where and why classes come into play. And I've gone to the fire range a lot, and I'm a very good target. Like I can shoot. I have really great aim. And so it's not something to be taken with lightly. I know that as a measure of what's going on now with the NRA, you know, it's like a movement or something for us as an African Americans to go to our states and counties to get, you know, a right to carry a firearm just because our counterparts and white Americans have them. So it's like, will they be as lenient then when it's all of our faces lined up to purchase one and not paying that license and that right? But I agree with it as that movement, even with that, just because it proves the point how racist or segregated that decision is. It's like, it's okay and it's all right to bear arms if you're white, but when all these black people want to do it, then it's an issue. But I honestly believe we should have it as a point of protection.
So I'm thinking about Lando Castile, who had the right to carry.
Yeah.
Streaming on Facebook, his girlfriend is driving, child in the back. He gets pulled over. We all know the end of the story. He's shot on Facebook Live. Everybody is watching this, and he has a license, and he's actually going for the license to show him
saying it. Right. Yeah, I have a license.
Yeah, I have a license, and is killed. So I guess my question is, because I hear you, Teresa, and the move for Black people to bear arms, and it's our constitutional right according to the Second Amendment. We know that to be true. Some people would argue it's our God-given right, right? Does it add to a much bigger problem?
I think it could, especially for those of us, if we have the immaturity of, you know, I'm going to use it at whim, or if I have an attitude, or, you know, somebody said it earlier, if that's what you want to do, it just shows immaturity. So you know that you can't be that person. You can't get one. But I think it adds to a bigger problem because people will start to use it when they don't even need to, or, you know, people that have arguments all the time now, or pull out a knife on somebody. I think it would be even more exacerbated that, you know, it'll be a bigger issue. I think it will incite more violence.
Absolutely. I think so too. Because it's easy for a situation to escalate. And like you said earlier, you know, someone may come with a gun, but then you pull yours out too. And then, you know, you're at a draw, you know, and then it's a matter of who shoots first. But it's definitely one of those things where if you're trying to intimidate someone, that can completely escalate a situation that could have been solved otherwise.
Yeah. And I can think about from a Christian perspective what it means to kill somebody. Right? Not just from
what it means to what?
To kill someone. To
take a human life.
Take human life, right? We're in the business, and I'm not trying to super spiritualize it or over spiritualize it.
Yeah.
I think it's an important conversation that we are the ones who are supposed to be speaking life. And you know, that's why I'm not for the death penalty personally, because who's to say if that person won't receive Christ as they're in prison for the rest of their lives, rather than the state taking their life. And so I guess I think about it in that same way, that if there's the opportunity for us to resolve things in a different way. Or, of course, when you think about somebody breaking in my home with my children, would I want to be able to protect them? Of course I would. I'm not arguing that at all.
Right.
But the idea, and Dana just put on the screen, blessed are the peacemakers. Some people would argue that even though Christ died on a state-sanctioned crucifixion, he laid his life down in the face of violence.
Right.
He could have called down legions. He could have killed everybody around him. But he laid down his life so that others could live. So again, not to over spiritualize it, but those are the battles that come into my mind. What are we?
But I think you have to bring the spiritual part into it, Matisa, because I think that's where our culture has been desensitized. We don't recognize the value of human life.
We don't recognize the value of
Jesus
human life.
loves human life so much that he gave his life for us.
Right.
It's important to him. It's the most important thing to him. But we can, kill people, or do all manner of things to people because we don't value the sanctity of human life.
Yeah. So let me bring this in because I think this is related. And Kendall has been blowing this up. Thank you, Kendall, for your contributions. Other people, we're going to get to your questions. Share this. I think this is a conversation we all need to have. We're at like 36 now. Can we get these numbers up? We just want people to join this conversation. Kendall has been talking a lot about education, and others have as well. I think that's fantastic. He talks about that gun classes are not about shooting people, but how to de-escalate. I want to get to that in just a second. Matisse has a serious oxygen tank to be able to go that deep for so long. It's because I've been eating vegan and I've been running. So yes, I have a lot of energy.
Yes, you have.
Thank you so much. But this is what I want to say real quick. I want to ask you all this question. Do you think, and then we're going to go back to classes and training. Do you think we should have guns in the church?
Yes.
Yes, we got crazy people in church.
Because people, again, going back to not having the sanctity for anything anymore, there's no respect. And not only that, when you think about like even with the civil rights movement, they're blowing up churches. Like, what's your problem?
Now, or just think about the guy what was the South Carolina?
Dylan Roof.
State where
Dylan Roof in South Carolina.
We need it. We need
absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Every armor bearer should be bearing some armor.
Literally,
bearing some armor.
Teresa, what were you going to say?
No, I'll just agree. I think that we should have guns in church. Like, I don't think it's even a consideration. Like, we should absolutely, our deacons should have them. Those that are protecting the church should have them. So those who carry our offering should have them because everybody come to church ain't saved. So I think. And another thing is like with when I used to work for the airlines, we would have police officers with dogs that would just walk the surveillance of the property, walk the surveillance of the lobby because it was a deterrent. It's a deterrent for crime. Like sometimes people don't do things because they know the presence is there. So I would love to see a deacon walk by and you can see the shape of his gun in his back pocket or across his back with a with the strap that they wear them. But I do believe that it's a deterrent as well for any foolishness.
So ushers standing there with their guns like, not today.
Not today.
Yeah.
One of the mothers on the front row. That one at the little gray slinky.
Right.
Mark, welcome to the table.
No table. We don't do no tables. Red tables, all color tables have. I don't want to see no tables this week. But I do want to say this. This conversation is way too good for you all in the comments not to have shared this. There's a number of you watching on YouTube. Shout out to our YouTube friends. There are more of you, of course, on Facebook. But this is way too good for you guys not to share. So I literally just snuck in here to tell everybody to share this now, like right now. Like I'm not even going to let them keep going until you guys share this. Because that number, we need to at least hit Pentecost. We're at 40. Okay, now we're at 50. We need to hit more than that. So I need everybody to share this. Now, while I'm here, I want to make sure you guys have shared, but I also want to say this. These ladies have been killing it consistently every week. The numbers have been great. More and more people are tuning in. So thank you for there we go. The number's going up now. There we go. Thank you guys for those of you that are doing that and helping us reach the world with this. But if you have a business or a company or a corporation, I don't know, you might have your own gun line. Whatever you do, whatever you have, and you want to be a sponsor, you need to contact one of the ladies on this screen, whether it be Teresa, Dana, Matisa, Joya. Contact one of them and let them know that you want to be a sponsor, because we need you to help us take this even further. Now, this has been your station identification number. Let's go up a little bit more. Come on, everybody. You need to tag a few friends in the comments. Let these ladies know you're appreciating what they're doing. But I do want to say this, since I'm here on the whole gun thing, I'm not going to carry one, okay? Because I don't want the responsibility. I don't want the pressure of now I got to use it and all that. I'm not going to carry it. But you better believe I'm going to have shooters around me. So if you've been to YLC, and everyone on this screen has, obviously they're all on the team. A lot of you in these comments have. Please understand, there are shooters all over the building. So I think that this conversation is so necessary. But I think that just because I don't have to carry one doesn't mean I don't want somebody carrying one. So we've hit it. Okay, there we go. We hit another benchmark. My work here is done. I need y'all to share this. These ladies are talking way too good not to have more people in here. And before we're done, I'm about to go. But before we're done, I need y'all to make sure y'all follow everybody on this screen, okay? Their social media names are going to be back up here eventually. Follow them. Ladies, keep doing a good job. Keep shooting straight. Bye.
Thank you. I want to address, thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate you. And our numbers are going up, so we're excited. I wanted to address, and I think Chevelle put it up. She was asking, kind of related to what we talked about earlier, do people of color, particularly Black people, do we really have the same privileges? Or if everybody's carrying, there we go, do you think we just gonna all get killed? I mean, or should we just take that risk and say whatever happens has to happen?
I think at this point you kind of have to take that risk.
I think we take that risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Because things have escalated so much where, you know, I never would have imagined that in 2020 I would see a news story of a Black man jogging and literally being hunted. Not in 2020.
Yeah.
Not like that. We're not even talking about police brutality. We're talking about by regular citizens. Like that's insane.
Absolutely.
Think about those the guys, what were they in Texas and California, finding them, they were hung.
Yeah.
So it's like, you think that's the reason why that gun conversation came back for me, because I'm like, I go out to Walmart, well, when it was open, but I used to be out, you know, we'd be out 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I gotta run and get something, even 10 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And now I'm like, I'm kind of nervous about that. So that's why the gun conversation came up for me. So I'm with them. I'd rather take the risk.
Well, even when you think about Ahmaud Arbery, who in Georgia, in our state, right? They took, because of the stand your ground law, and there are 33 states. Now listen to this. 33 states have some sort of stand your ground law where you can, as a citizen, right, take sort of that vigilante approach. And if you feel like something is in progress, then you can shoot, right? Ahmaud Arbery, that's the reason why those guys really felt like they could go get him. But does that create a shootout? What if Ahmaud Arbery had a gun and they're shooting one another? Then the law becomes who's right and who's wrong.
Or he might still be alive and they would be dead.
But in prison.
But protected.
Well, maybe.
And then at some point we have to depend on the law to do what the law is going to do. Like anytime somebody is arrested, we depend on the system to work for us. And we know, unfortunately, more oftentimes than not, it does not work in our favor. But like Matisse, you said earlier, you don't believe in capital punishment. And I absolutely believe in capital punishment. Is there a...
You would. I know you did, Teresa.
I'm just saying an eye for an eye. That's not my word. That's the word. An eye for an eye. Life for life. Amen. But what I think that it's a disparity with the way we're treated. We're not treated fairly. So you put yourself in a negative situation where you really don't believe that the law is going to cover you or be on your side, especially if it was self-defense. You still want to somebody wants to give $100. This is the subject I'm passionate about. Let's get our people educated.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah.
You can certainly feel free to sew into this at Explore YLC at our Cash App, Explore YLC. But we appreciate you for that. But this is a very needed conversation. And I agree with June that sometimes excuse the law. And so people, it gives them even more fire behind what's negative, like their racism, to kill someone. But I think that I would rather be protected and fight for my right than not be protected and die anyway at the hands of someone unjust or die at the hands of an officer. Like we can both go meet our maker.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's an important point. We have the right. There's nothing that we can point to that I've seen in scripture that says we should not. That's why it's up for interpretation and debate and conversation, which is why I think that this one is really important. Let's kind of shift gears just a little bit. What do you all think about, we've seen a lot as it relates to training, just the need for having classes. So even if you decided not to own a gun yourself, what do you all think about having classes? And I mean for everybody, not just, is that something that they should be doing in schools or churches?
Self-defense classes or
gun
on shooting? Okay.
Yeah. Gun training, if you will.
Somebody said it earlier that when you go to a self-defense class with guns, a gun shooting class, they also talk about other techniques that would prevent you from getting to the need to have to ultimately use your gun. But I think it's great information. Like, everybody's educated. Things are so much different once people are educated. So if we could start educating them in, school for, people that are even junior high, high school, and college, and then just adult classes, I think that would be critical.
I don't think I agree on that. I don't think that we should introduce it to them too young. I don't think
it's introduced to them in elementary school. I'll say it like this.
I don't know what that is, so I don't know exactly what it entails, but I don't think that, if you're not trying to go and carry it, then I don't think I wouldn't say have everyone take a class on gun.
I disagree with that. Like, I disagree with no sex education in school. Like, by the time you decide, I'm gonna tell my kids about this, somebody is in school showing them how to do it. So if you think it might be too early to educate them or put that mindset in them, but I'd rather them get educated about it than to kids. So many kids die at the hands of guns because they're playing with them, looking at it, trying to figure out how to work their dad's gun, and they shoot themselves when we could teach them safety and teach them in a manner that's safe for everyone involved. And I don't think junior high school is too young for that at all.
So you're saying, Teresa, if we're advocating that people can have guns and we're saying people should have guns, a lot of us have kids,
right?
Or at least might have kids around us,
right? If you had kids, you would want them to know about how to use that gun.
Sense, but to introduce everyone to it, I don't think it makes sense.
But what if, Joya?
It doesn't make sense for me to introduce.
What if a child comes to my house because they are Deshaun's friend, and God forbid if I ever had a gun, it would be locked and bolted and all kinds of stuff to get in it. Say God forbid he got it. Would you not want children to have some idea about guns and all of that so they wouldn't play with it and blow somebody's
there's a reason that there's age restrictions on things, because even if you teach them the proper way to do stuff, they're still too immature to understand how to handle it.
Right. That's why
that's one of those things, like, you just kind of have to keep it away from them until they do kind of understand all that goes along with either handling a gun or being curious about it. I understand, like, that's one of those things where we have to find the balance, because kids are curious and we don't want them to get information from the wrong places, but we also don't want them to be too curious and still end up harming themselves because of something we've introduced to them too soon.
But what about Teresa's analogy of sex education? And we could talk about that. Maybe that'll be another topic for us.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But what about that analogy, especially from a Christian perspective, Christian parent perspective? But what about, and I was going to go to the point that Mark just made. As I said, we grew up hunting. I mean, my grandfather's rifle and his shotguns were against the wall. And I don't ever remember having a class because I wasn't that curious about them. We just didn't touch them. But today, oh, these kids, they will go, and you hear about kids who are playing with it and get killed. So my question is, I get it that you're talking about it might be too early, but isn't that sex education analogy a good one? Like,
it is a good one.
What'd you say?
I think it was a really, really good analogy, but I still think it might do more harm than good as far as guns are concerned, trying to introduce them to something, especially if, like for you, you said you had no interest in them at all, but then, you might then spark the interest for somebody else who might not have had the interest before. And still you run the risk because it is it's a deadly weapon. I would just be cautious about, how soon to introduce that to them. Because
I agree with you. I should agree.
They're very curious and they will figure stuff out. Like you give a kid an iPhone, they know more stuff about your iPhone than we do because they're curious.
And I'm not saying, I agree with you, Dana. And I'm not saying that we allow them to purchase it. That's why you have to, there are age restrictions on the purchase and the ownership. But what I'm saying is, them being aware, having the education, teaching them how to use it, how not to use it, or how, not to shoot your face off when you're being curious looking at it anyway. Because I can promise you this, with all the school shootings that have happened in these elementary, not middle school, in elementary schools, the kids go there. Like, that's not like it's something that's foreign to them. It's in their world. And I think that we keep ourselves in a bubble by saying, oh no, kids shouldn't know about it, because I promise you, by the time your kid finds out about it, and it's not from an educated source, it's their cool kids that, hey, I got my dad's gun, I got my brother's gun, I brought it to school and I want to show you. And these are children in elementary school bringing guns to school in their backpack because
what are they going to do? Like, how is that going to change it just because they know about it, just if their friend brought it to school? Like,
just having the knowledge, it's having, like, educate. That's
the safety thing.
Who?
I think what it is this. It's that if it's no longer taboo, it doesn't hold as much curiosity or weight with it. So if you just make it an everyday part of it, maybe that's why it wasn't so such a big deal to you, Matisa, because just like, the guns on the wall around you, it wasn't anything that, don't touch the gun, Right. So maybe introducing it in a way that just makes it a normal part of life, so that it's not, but like Teresa said, with the right education, with the safety, and just making it an everyday habit that this is not something you play with.
Yeah, because
knowledgeable.
No, that was good, Dana, because a lot of these accidental gun shootings happen because they're just playing with it. They have no idea. They're not equating what they're seeing on television to the fact that these guns are real. They got real bullets and they really gonna kill you.
Right.
So, and I do agree, you're not gonna do it maybe with a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, but certain age levels, you get to that point where you're teaching them, listen, this can kill. Yeah. And I saw a couple of people say if they're old enough to stay home, that might be the age level. I want to say it varies by state, but I know, like, I think Georgia's 12, if I'm not mistaken. So it would vary.
They can stay home by themselves?
I think it's 12, yeah. Although we do not leave some 12 plus
not leave the son by himself.
Dana, listen, it's not just the age range. The maturity is important as well. So, yeah.
But I think, again, it's just a safety measure. It's not like you're teaching them. It's just like you're not putting sex in their head because you educate them on it. You're giving them information so they can make a more calculated decision. And so that goes to the parent. If you feel like your kids shouldn't be aware, the streets will teach them before you get a chance to. And that's what we don't want to happen.
So I don't agree with that.
What'd you say, Joya?
That's fine.
I said I wasn't 100% aware, but the street didn't teach me anything. I just didn't want to mess with guns. So I just think it's each kid, and I think it's each parent. Your parents know their kids. I don't believe that all kids should know about.
Nobody said all kids. Nobody said all kids. Nobody said all kids do that.
Say it again.
Yeah, I introduced the question as it being maybe part of some sort of education. So in that regard, it would be kind of in schools or whatever. But Joy, what you're saying is every parent has to make the decision for their child.
Decision for their kid, right? That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha. But I will say this again, not to try to convince you otherwise, but sometimes you over somebody's house and you have checked everything and you think you think you've covered all the ground, and there's something in the house like a gun, and your child hasn't been taught. You don't want to do that. That's just something to think about. There was one last thing I was going to ask about. Do you think, and I love Jaden. Jaden's on here, y'all. Jaden said, listen, the Lord's about to come back. That's him. Jaden was like, Lord's just about to come back. It don't even matter. It's crazy up here. He said, write this thing up. The Lord's coming.
Right.
Would you guys encourage your women's group or something to do something like that? Would you encourage your women's group?
So I have lessons.
Yeah, to go get trained.
Going to a range?
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I would. I was thinking about that as a thing to do too, because I have a friend who actually does defensive training, and he does, cooking up and all that stuff. He's an ex-military guy, so he's really sweet and fun. So I think it would be kind of cool, even just to get the experience and really see if you really do want to handle a gun. Because you may get out there, get the training and all that stuff, and still decide maybe this just isn't for me. Or you may go out there and do it and really, really like it and really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
what would you say, Teresa?
I think that it's needed, and you can't go wrong with having more education. Like the more education you have, the more knowledgeable you are. It's like somebody just said, it's a teachable moment. But even going back to the kids, they have so many guns and games now. And these are kids playing them, where Mortal Kombat was from my era or so, but now they have so many other things. But it's kids are aware of it. I just think proper education is very important. And so if women go for women's groups, it's just another form of education that I think is very helpful.
Joya?
I think, yeah, I agree. I think it would be something that I don't think it's a problem with that. Like that's not a problem with adults going. And like Dana said, because that's why I want to go. I even just seeing my dad's gun, I talk all this stuff, but seeing my dad's gun, I get nervous. I saw my mom's small gun, I got kind of nervous. So I do want to go out and try and do the shooting range and then just learn the different techniques and learn. I want to know how to handle it in situations, if that makes any type of sense. Like I want to know how to handle the gun in situations, because again, they kind of made me nervous when I saw my dad's. So I want to see how it really feels to shoot it and everything. I've shot a shotgun before though, but I've never shot a small gun.
Mark is dumb. He said Mortal Kombat was from your era, Teresa. Double Dutch was from your era.
That's true. You are correct, sir.
Double Dutch and Mortal Kombat, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, I will say this, and I don't know how it was for you, Dana, but when we were raising our children, we didn't allow them to play. I didn't allow Deshaun to play with guns.
Nope. Not even a play gun. Not even a green
play gun.
Nothing.
No. And when I used to teach a class called, it was juvenile delinquency class, I would have my students come in, and they would bring, Teresa, to your point, they would bring in their most weaponized games, if you will. And I think Call of Duty was one of them. There are a lot of them. And what psychology says is because those games have such sensory overload in the sense that you physically feel like you're shooting a gun, it impacts you psychologically. violently.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of research that looks at whether or not those, how it impacts. Does it create violence within kids? Is it that kids already have a propensity toward violence? And so when they play those games, it makes them more violent. So I think all of these conversations are important because whether you have a real gun or not, to the points made earlier, kids are exposed to them, the sensation of them, what it might look like. And I'll say this last thing too, and we'll begin to wrap up. I was playing the devil's advocate for a lot of these questions. So, I don't necessarily agree with all the questions I asked, but I did go to the range. Teresa, I think you said you've been a number of times. It scared me.
Really?
I don't know if it was my Holy Ghost. I was like, Lord, something about this don't feel right. I don't know what, but it was
really.
It was.
What scared you? The recoil of the gun, like the power, the impact?
Yep.
Yeah. You got to be prepared for that recoil. I think it surprised me the first time, but it didn't scare me. And I think I was intrigued with my brothers had BB guns growing up. Again, it dates me, but they did. And so they would be in the backyard trying to shoot a tin can, sitting on top of something they stood up. And it just intrigued me, the accuracy of being able to shoot in the bullseye or whatever target we had. And of course, at the gun range, it's the shape of a person, with the bullseye being here in the middle of their head. But it was, to me, I was just, I guess, intrigued with the accuracy of it all.
Mm-hmm. And trying to make sure you hit that bullseye point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you all ever, Joya or Dana, have y'all been to the range at all?
Not yet, but I would like to go.
Yeah.
I've never been to the range. I've shot like the shotguns and different things like that because I have family in the country that hunt as well.
Yeah.
So I've used those type of guns, but like the small ones, for some reason, the shotguns I was okay with, I was comfortable with, but just seeing those small ones, I don't know, it makes me nervous. It really does. So yeah. I do want to go though. Yeah.
Well, my first experience with a gun was very negative. Someone was actually breaking into our house one Sunday after church. We had come in and there were two like gangbangers who were kind of hanging out around our house. And my sister forgot to close the garage door. So initially the person tried to come in through the front door, and I happened to be like, you know how you have those foyer areas and you have like the frosted glass on the side of the door? Well, I happened to be by that area and I saw him trying to open the door and come in the house. So that freaked me out. And then knowing that he eventually came into through our garage and came, and now fortunately my parents had guns, but it still was a bad situation. So that's kind of made me a little leery about having them.
I see. But I thought you were going to say the opposite, that you would want to have them because you felt protected.
Yeah.
Because of them trying to get in. Wow. Well, let me just ask you all in our final just couple of minutes. Like, I know we've kind of been all over the place. There isn't a consensus per se, but what is the thing that you would say as it relates to guns and girls and God? What would you say for you, and what would you say to our audience?
Unmute me. Mine would just be let it be God first.
Okay.
So God, girls and guns.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's my mindset. It's like, I'm going to continue to allow God to protect me, and I'm going to continue to allow him to lead me. And that's all. That's my thing. Even in the world that we're living in, what we're going through, we see it on TV, we hear it, we see it on Facebook and all the social media everywhere. It's plastered, but I have to continue to allow God to protect me and lead me. And then once I go to the gun range, if I feel comfortable, and then once I mature up and know that I'm not going to just pull it out because somebody passed me, I might give me one. So I'm waiting on my dad to tell me that I can get it though. Because he told me once my dad says, yes, you can get it, then I'm going to get it.
Then you're good. Okay. Dana, what would you say?
I would just say be really safe, be really well educated, make sure you're really comfortable with it, and make sure that you really are ready to use it should the occasion come.
Okay. Good. Teresa, what would you say?
I would say that it's a necessary form of protection during these times, but I think, I do defer to the scripture. Everything that's lawful is not hold on a second. Everything that's lawful is not expedient, but I agree with protecting yourself and having a license to carry a concealed weapon or open weapon in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I would just say, lastly, I am seriously thinking about what all of this means for our family. I love what Joy said, that you have to be spirit led, and whatever is good for you. Don't let anybody push you into doing something that isn't comfortable for you. I would say also to women, I do think it's important for us to protect ourselves. And if that doesn't mean that you're going to carry a gun, consider getting mace, consider getting a taser. Listen,
Reminds me that she found the
Yeah, for sure.
a taser. My son talks about that all the time. He's like, "Mom, I'm gonna get you a taser." But whatever it is, you want to make sure that you feel secure. We know if we're God led, we're not going to do something that we should not. Be educated, be God led, and then do what's right for your family. And if you take all of these things into consideration and think about what's right for you, you'll have
all things new.
We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.
pew pew pew.
Wow.